everybody. Welcome to healingals.org's community meetings. Okay, these meetings are here for us to learn how we have been involved with and visited over 30 different ALS reversals. And with these pals, we were able to learn what they were doing, and we're going to let our whole community understand how everyone has taken their own path in reversing and healing ALS. Okay, we are not medical professionals. We're just here we're not giving medical advice. We're just showing people how others have done it. Okay, and now I believe Bedlack has increased his numbers of people who have reversed, and we expect to have at least 200 ALS reversals by 2022.
Thank you, Scott, very much. Today's agenda is, last week we covered what do PALS reversals have in common. Then we're going to do a testimonial of the week. This time it's going to be Elaine Dittmar. She's going to share how she's not a reversal yet, but we believe she's going to be one of the reversals. And she's going to be sharing how she manages to do food and protocols with no hands. And then our extra guest special speaker is going to be Coco Newton, and then we're going to have Q&A. So let's go to Eileen Dittmar, and Eileen, I have to unmute you, so hold on a second. Just to let you know, Eileen was diagnosed in 2019, and I wanted her to share this week because she basically has lost the use of her hands. She has very, very limited use of her hands. How on earth do you solve the problem? So go ahead, Eileen.
Okay, hi everybody. Just a brief little update with you about what I'm doing for my meals and my supplements, because I have about 20% of my right hand. My left hand is gone. My fingers don't work on my right hand. And I wanted to, obviously have a quality of life. So yes, I have a wonderful husband. He does all kinds of stuff for me. But in February of this year, I went to care.com and I interviewed ladies from there and selected a local lady. And she comes over 4 days a week. And I just pay for this out of pocket. But what's really nice about it is I am able to enjoy eating and having all the meals that I would want to have, just like I was cooking, because I used to love to cook. I really loved cooking, and so I really enjoy having home cooked meals, and I still can have that. So she also helps me with my supplements, and Tish put the link to my supplement page if you're interested in seeing what I do. I'm very fortunate that I was able to get in to work with Coco Newton before her practice got too full, and thank you, Coco. She's here today. I am very happy that my life can be manageable with my caretaker here. She comes 4 days a week. I do follow all of the guidelines in Healing ALS org. For example, I'm gluten-free. I go dairy-free. I do sugar-free, soy-free, and absolutely no processed foods. Clean eating, and my caretaker does amazing meals for me. She makes me things like paleo bread, and she makes me things like stews and all kinds of different meals. So I have excellent food all the time that's in compliance with what I need to do. In addition, she helps me with my smoothies. She helps me with my supplements. We put them together for the whole week. So every day I don't have to go through all my bottles and take them out. It's all set all up. Took a while to get that into place, but it's really quite nice. She takes me shopping back before COVID. Now with COVID, I do all home deliveries. I live in an area where we have grocery stores that deliver. So I don't have to go to the store. I do have a couple of friends that will go pick up fresh produce for me. I don't go to the stores. Arizona's a terrible place to be right now with the COVID. It's just rampant here, and I don't think it's safer to go out. I do pay for this out of my own money because I felt it helped me with my quality of life. Tish put a little note on there. Not everybody has that kind of money. Some of us may have less of a budget for that, but there's other ways you can go about getting the help. And she gave a few here. Of course, the Mark Manchester model. He talks about it when you listen to his videos about how they had friends and neighbors in church all come in and help out. But there are a number of things that we can do to get help, whether you go through, like me, care.com, and find somebody that's a nurse that can come in and help out, or whether you want to organize volunteers. Either way, I encourage you, if you're like me, and you're a little overwhelmed with all the stuff we have to do, to get some help and get yourself back on track so you can be focused on the important things.
Thank you so much, Eileen. That is like perfect, because that's what people do. It's like Eileen has found a way, and she will be one of those. From this group, our goal is to get 100 ALS reversals. So 200 in total from people who've already done it from around the world, and the ones that he's already contacted. But our goal is to get 100 reversals out of this group. So I believe Eileen will be one of them, because she is doing what she has to do. So our next, obviously, and I took these from Carol, because 2 weeks ago Carol came along, and Carol does a huge amount with food, and to me it's amazing. You know, she's diagnosed in 2005. It's amazing, you know, the kinds of things that she does. She makes her own stuff. You really can do a lot with food. So that was sort of a reminder for the rest of you, just so you know, there are things that you can do to eat healthy. And by the way, this salad, you know, this right here on the bottom left is just typical salad with like everything in it. Kombucha tea, she makes her own nut butter. This is dessert, all very healthy. So, okay, Coco. She's a master of public health, registered dietitian, certified nutrition specialist. She was part of the Michigan Nutrition Advisory Panel that reported to the governor of Michigan. She began her career in conventional dietetics, and one of the things that amazed me with her is, again, she said, this isn't working. I need to go get functional medical training. Well, the way Coco is, she just got functional medical nutritional therapy in spades. Okay, she just really did it. We met her in 2013 when we interviewed Dr. Craig Oster, and one of the things that we were amazed with is that we had interviewed people from around the country, actually 3 countries, well, 2 countries at the time, functional medical doctors and naturopaths, and we found that she was like among the best, among the most knowledgeable. And remember, all functional medical doctors are not the same. A lot of them put functional medicine beside their name, but they do not have the depth of knowledge that Coco Newton has. So we are very, very pleased. She was a speaker at the conference, and we are super, super happy that Coco is with us today. So thank you so much. This is part of her mission. She donates a lot of her time. One more thing, I think hopefully she has a slide of her book out there. The book, Integrative and Functional Medical Nutrition, there's an ALS chapter available for download for $29. I believe this is did she cover everything in one chapter? No, that would take a whole book. But she was able to cover a lot of it, and she just did. We're just so proud to know her, and she's so helpful, and she's helping us. She's on the medical board of the Healing ALS Reversal Project, which probably now will not happen till January, but we are working on it every single week on the study design. The study design is happening right now as we speak. So Coco, go ahead, and thank you very much. And I have to switch slides. So Coco, I'm gonna actually stop my share so that you'll get Coco full screen. So Coco, why don't you get started?
Okay. Where are my slides?
I'm getting them up for you now. So
okay.
say hello
And I'll
and
start.
You can talk a little bit while I'm getting your slides up, because I just have to download them from the email real quick.
Sure. It's good to see everybody. I know. Hi, Adam. I see you. And who else do I see here? Well, I know there are many more people than I can see on this immediate screen. Gabby. We've spoken. Hi. And I know Eileen. I saw you, so I'm going to say hi again. And I can't recognize anyone else on this first screen here, but I'm sure there are many that I know. So nice to be here, and I have to say that my motivation for ALS all started with, you can go to the next slide. Well, okay, let's go to the next slide. Let's just start here. I live and teach and counsel by this premise that our brain is our garden and the roots are nurtured by the food we eat. And that is both technical and metaphorical. It's both scientific and metaphorical. It's also, I look at food as nourishment. We nourish ourselves beyond just eating food, but we nourish ourselves with what we surround ourselves with, what we read. I love that cat, Carol. Thank you, that's great. By the pets and the love in our life, and by what we read and what we focus on. So nourishment feeds us, but today I'm talking about food as nourishment. Okay, thank you. Next slide. All right. This all started for me back in about 2011 when I received a kind of a random referral from a physician, a DO, wanting me to see his patient with ALS. And this man, this pals, had just come out of hospice. And I honestly did not know anything about ALS, didn't know anything about the diagnosis through my medical training. Even all my functional medicine training, it focused on MS and Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, never on ALS. In fact, ALS was always grouped in that term that you often used to see and still do sometimes, other neurodegenerative conditions, just lumped in there. So I, at first, out of integrity, said, no, I can't see this patient because I don't know anything and I don't want to waste his time, his money, and I don't want to give him false hope. So he persisted for, I think, about a year trying to get into my practice. And I said, okay, then I'm just going to, since I still don't know anything about ALS, I'm just going to look at you as a functional medicine, through the functional medicine lens. And I'm going to try to help you. I'm going to try to help you know everything from your mitochondrial health, your gut health, your immune health, inflammatory pathways, etc. Just through kind of a functional medicine model, which looks at everything. And if you happen to feel better from doing this, so much the better. But I don't know how to treat the diagnosis of ALS. So I was very, very candid with him. He said, okay, I'll go for it. Okay, next. He's a 26-year survivor. And this is some more pictures of Dr. Craig Oster. Next. And then in 2013, I received a call from G. Smith, who's the wife of Steve Smith, the next NFL player. And still, I'm not considering myself very knowledgeable in ALS. It was really hard to read about it back then. It wasn't popular. Remember, this was before the Ice Bucket Challenge. So, the literature was really scant for a nutritionist trying to learn. Anyway, Steve never became my official patient. I just worked with them on the phone a little bit to just see if I could be helpful. And I didn't do much of anything. All I did was get him from a processed liquid formula to a Whole Foods tube feeding formula. That's it. I didn't look at his labs. I didn't adjust any of his supplements. That's not what they wanted. And when he started out, he had diabetes. He was taking metformin twice a day. He had a lot of GI distress. He had fungal nails, and you can see in this 2011 photo a very bloated face. And so the first place we went to was functional formularies, because Liquid Hope had just started up around, I think, 2013. And then moved from that because that wasn't as well tolerated. And what was so beautiful is that the woman who developed Liquid Hope actually counseled them on how to make organic enteral and enteral tube feedings. And by 2015, he had no diabetes and no diabetes medication, no GI distress, no fungal nails, no bloated face. And I hope you can see the difference in his expression in 2015, 2018, and this, which was just posted yesterday on July 11th. So this showed me in a very simple way the power of food, because that's what I want you to feel and integrate in your consciousness and in your habits from today. It's the power of food. It is so powerful. And okay, next. Oh, this is just the woman who developed Liquid Hope and gave them the customized recipe. And so she quotes, "It's not a miracle, it's simply nutrition." Here's some pictures of food that she prepares for Steve as she's making and the batch tube feedings. Next. So looking back, you know, I went through the American Academy of Neurology, the ALS Association, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, and nowhere was there any valuable information on diet and nutrition. All of them only had basically algorithms for following weight loss and then following swallowing and chewing, and then what are the criteria for getting on a tube feeding. So there was no, no, please go back. Yeah, stay here. And there was just no information on nutrition, with the exception of calories at any cost. So it didn't matter where those calories came from. And it wasn't until 2016 that there was actually an ALS and function diet study. Now this study, you know, it wasn't perfect, but it starts to at least introduce the concept that food matters. And so they looked at ALS function at diagnosis. And they found that antioxidants, carotenoids, fiber, fruits, and vegetables were associated with higher ALS function at baseline, at diagnosis, and that milk had a negative effect. So that was just the beginning of finding out if food has any significance and applied value in taking care of ALS. Next. So there are many foods and beyond these that have significant scientific literature on the power of the chemicals that are in these foods. And these are phytochemicals, and they come with many, many names for each of these, of the specific chemicals. But all of these foods have been studied in either ALS or neurodegeneration. So the specific chemicals in each of these have a powerful effects on the brain. So I'm just going to give you an example. Next, the latest. Next, yeah. So this is the latest study, and this was just in published, I think, in June last month, June of 2020, and it was looking at protocatechuic acid, and this is from blackberries, and showing how in a in an animal model. That it reduces neuronal death. It's a powerful antioxidant and anti-inflammatory. I just wanted to give you one example of a scientific reference here. Okay, next. And then these are just some herbs and spices that show possible benefits in ALS and neurodegeneration. These are again, like the foods, they have powerful chemicals that have far-reaching effects on the brain. Some of them protect DNA. Some of them work on excitotoxicity or inflammation. So there's such a profound influence of these foods. And you're familiar with a lot of these. These are things that can be added to your stews, as you know, Eileen was mentioning, and go into smoothies. They can be grown, some of them quite easily, especially like basil and oregano and parsley and cilantro, and just, you know, very easily. Okay, let's go to the next. And so here's a study I just want to show you on curcumin, and this was in 2018, and it's a powerful antioxidant. They showed that it slightly lowered disease progression as well as improved aerobic metabolism. And and it's really, I don't think that there's going to be any one magic herb or spice or food or fruit, you know, fruit or vegetable that is going to be doing the trick. It's getting a lot of these in your diet every day. And it's not to develop a fad with any one of them, but all of them are important. I make a sauce. I should share the recipe because, well, I can try. I just throw it all together and I don't measure it, but let me just tell you what's in it. And I think it's a very powerful sauce. So if you have a juicer, you can, yeah, you can just leave it on this. You can put it to the next one, Tish. Yeah, and just leave it there for a while. Let me just tell you about this. If you were to juice turmeric root, get some organic, fresh turmeric root, and juice it with some ginger. You're going to have relatively less ginger in there because ginger is very powerful. And so you need less ginger than you do turmeric root. And then juice it with garlic, and then add lemons into this. Just as a start, you can also put some onion in and add this to coconut milk. And you can make an amazing sauce. It's bright orange. And then you can use monk fruit. You can use some coconut aminos to flavor it. And this sauce, it preserves itself, you know, so you can freeze it, of course, but, and you can use it for various foods, like if you're using organic tofu or tempeh, or even if you're using, if it's a safe fish, that would be good. It also can make a great base for a soup. So anyway, there you're getting like a really powerful phytonutrient cocktail. So what do these phytochemicals do? Why do I keep talking about them? So all those ones that I showed you pictures of, keep those in your mind here. It protects neuronal cells. It reduces oxidative stress. So it's a powerful antioxidant. It reduces inflammation. It protects your DNA and RNA, and it also induces the expression of neuroprotective genes. So not only is it protecting what's there, it's stimulating the expression of neuroprotection through genes. It increases mitochondrial function and the number of mitochondria. It protects the mitochondrial membrane. I think that the mitochondrial membrane, I'm going to say, is where the rubber meets the road along with the cell membrane. I can't emphasize that enough. And it activates programmed cell death. So when cells need to be unloaded, like a dump truck, it activates that. And it increases neurotrophic factors and decreases protein aggregation and accumulation. So this is the power of the food. So if I hear from some pals, oh, my, whoever it is, significant other person, whether it's a parent or a spouse or siblings or whatever, they think this food thing is just sort of silly, or it's a distraction, or if it was that important, we'd be hearing about it from our neurologists or so forth. And they kind of sometimes, it can be trivialized. But this is just letting you know how much strong science is behind the importance of what we eat. Okay, next. So I know some of you are maybe new here. I realize some of you too are have been here, with this group for a while, or some of you I know. I want to just make it clear that there are certain foods that just have to be avoided, and conventional grains need to be avoided. Not only, it's not just about gluten, although gluten is a big factor, but there are other proteins that people have adverse responses to. They just never find out about it. For example, wheat has many more proteins than gluten. It has a whole array of proteins, and some people are sensitive to those and maybe aren't specifically sensitive to gluten. But nevertheless, conventional grains, especially wheat, they're all sprayed with glyphosate right before harvest. And that just helps desiccate them so they all can be harvested at once. So you do not want to have any conventional grains. And dairy products, I've just found in general that dairy is so toxic, and I'm talking about conventional dairy. I have better things to say about organic dairy, but just because it's organic doesn't mean you can't be allergic to it. And it doesn't mean that it doesn't have an adverse effect in your body. But conventional dairy is definitely damaging because you're getting the hormones, you're getting the pests, the herbicides, you're getting the antibiotics and all of that. So you want to stay away from that, as well as conventional animal proteins and conventional fats. And sugar by its many names, and of course processed foods. So including a plant-based diet that's high in fiber, including fermented foods, plant proteins like hemp, pea, chia protein are all really good ones. I'm less of a fan of rice protein, not because it isn't easily digested and assimilated, but there is a real problem with arsenic in rice, and arsenic we'll get into rice. It's worse with brown rice than white rice. And it also doesn't matter whether the rice is organically grown or conventionally grown, or whether it comes from the United States or Asia. Rice has a problem with arsenic. It's the water that feeds into it. It's the soil that it's grown in. But I know that there are some, like I think Lundberg makes an organic rice, and they do test their arsenic levels. So they claim that their arsenic is below a level of concern. And then low toxin fish. The lowest toxin fish will be the tiniest fish. So that will be the sardines and herring, anchovies. And then there is a tuna on the market. The brand is Safe Catch. And they monitor the mercury in all of their tuna, and they don't have any tuna in there that doesn't meet their pretty strict guidelines for mercury, as opposed to other tuna fishes. Pre and probiotic rich foods, which I'll be going into, polyphenol rich foods, those are the phytochemicals. We already talked about herbs and spices, and tea, and sprouted grains and legumes are going to be easier to digest. And even, compared to non-sprouted. Healthy fats, here's some examples of healthy fats: coconut oil, olive oil, grass-fed butter or ghee, nuts, seeds, avocado, as basic healthy fats. So again, next slide, please. When you think about gluten, we know that antibodies to gluten attack the central nervous system. And there is a condition called gluten ataxia, and it causes nerve damage in the hands, the feet, and the limbs, and difficulty using arms, talking, and walking. Now, this is not ALS, this is gluten ataxia, but the ALS, look at the mimicking here of some of these symptoms. And digestive issues do not have to be present. And one thing that to be aware of is the person can have silent celiac or silent gluten problems where their gut doesn't speak to them at all. It's happy, it digests, there's no complaints, but then the manifestations of the gluten can go into the joints, it can go into the skin, it can go into the brain, it can go into, as you see here, your arms and legs and so forth. So that's why I'm warning you very much about gluten. Okay, next. I get a lot of questions about, should I be vegan, pegan? Pegan is just fish with a vegan diet. Paleo or keto. And I can't answer that. I wish there was a, one diet. People often say, what's your protocol for ALS? And it's like, well, show me the patient that has ALS. I don't know until I meet them, till I find out what's going on in their gut, what kind of their labs, their symptoms, and their history. I can't just say, well, there's no one size fits all diet. There's no magic bullet diet. And there are no conclusive clinical diet studies on ALS. I don't think any of them are any good. And maybe on another one of these, I can go into more detail in certain things, like how to personalize how many calories you need or protein, and so forth, because that needs to be done each time too with each patient. But if you, can you please go to the next slide? Okay, thank you. So veganism can have a very positive effect on health. It's often based on compassion and spiritual values, but it can be inadequate in essential fatty acids, vitamin D3, vitamin K2, and B12, and it can be inadequate in carnitine. And carnitine is really important for getting your fatty acids oxidized in your mitochondria. And it can also be inadequate in carnosine, and these both have a high requirement in ALS. And the pegan and paleo, I'm a big fan of Dr. Walls. I know her. We've been at many conferences together, and I've listened to her story again and again. And I think the paleo has a lot of, I think it has a lot of merit. But one of the issues with it is that for some people, eating that much animal protein just doesn't work for their digestion. And it may not promote enough microbial diversity in the gut. And what I mean by that is your gut is host to trillions of bacteria, and there needs to be a good diversity of bacteria, and that directly affects the brain. And so a paleo diet can be low for some people in enough fruits and vegetables to create enough microbial diversity. And then when there's fish, I worry about the risk of neurotoxins that are in fish. So, okay, then we go to keto, and that might be neuroprotective. It shows this in animals. It may increase mitochondria. It might be very inadequate in phytonutrients. And it is likely going to be inadequate in fiber. We know that a high-fat diet, which is part of the keto plan, is beneficial in increasing or reducing, a high-fat diet reduces the beneficial Akkermansia muciniphila, which is a really important gut microbe for ALS. So there you have a negative effect. Long-term tolerance with it is quite difficult, and there is a potential for weight loss, and that is definitely not anything I will risk at any time for any patient. So I really like to find out what works for the person. A person has to enjoy their food. They have to be able to digest it. And really looking at laboratory values is a way of helping to monitor how well someone is doing with their diet, looking at gut testing, and also looking at energy level, sleep, and function. Is the diet helping or hindering? So anyway, I individualize for everybody. Okay, next. So one of the impressive aspects of food is how it can protect the blood-brain barrier. And the blood-brain barrier can be permeable. And that's where you sometimes hear the term leaky brain. I mean, everyone now is familiar with leaky gut. So leaky gut can actually stimulate the problem of leaky brain due to all the inflammatory signaling from the gut by the bacteria and the inflammatory cytokines that reach the brain. So what happens with a leaky brain is that there's deterioration of something called tight junctions. And this is very similar. The gut barrier, the leaky gut and leaky brain are morphologically very similar. And so it's very important, just like it's very important to protect the lining of the gut and keep it healthy, it's very important to protect the blood-brain barrier. Now, you've all heard of this transcription factor called NRF2, and it's in all body tissues, and it enhances antioxidant protection. And it's involved in over 250 genes, and it supports these tight junction proteins. So the NRF2 is very important for the blood-brain barrier. But there are foods that increase NRF2. And I prescribe many supplements for people. I mean, I don't feel with ALS that you can do it just with food. You've got to have supplements. You've got to have that extra therapeutic benefit of supplements. But not to forget about the food, because I hear so much more about supplements than I do food. And so I want to remind people about the power of food. So these are the foods that increase NRF2. They contain something called sulforaphane, and they are in broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, asparagus, bok choy, arugula, radishes, turnips, horseradish, daikon radish, curly kale, and more. So when you're eating the foods, you can actually envision them supporting your DNA, supporting your blood-brain barrier, quelling inflammation, reducing oxidative stress. So connecting with your food in a way that you actually see its role can really help when you're eating your food to manifest some of these powerful effects. Okay, next. So there's dietary antioxidants protect the permeability of the blood-brain barrier. So not just NRF2, but so you can promote superoxide dismutase, and you can promote the production of glutathione and the glutathione enzymes through these foods. And, are you starting to see that there's a kind of a repetitive theme here? These foods, it's the same ones, more or less, that turn up again and again as being so protective on so many different levels. I won't read all of them to you because I know you can see them, but I just want you to really take home that point that food has so much power in your body. Okay, next. So your diet has the biggest impact on your gut microbiome, which has the biggest impact on the gut-brain axis. So the gut will influence neurotransmitters. It will influence your level of stress and anxiety, your mood, behavior, and it also influences neurodegeneration. But your brain influences motility, how fast or slow food moves through your GI system, secretions of beneficial chemicals to help the food pass through, so digestive enzymes. For example, nutrient delivery, and microbial balance. So the brain, even stress itself, can change your microbiome. Okay, next. So the Western diet, most of the food in the Western diet is very limited or has no benefit or is damaging to the microbiota in the lower gut. And you can change your gut microbiome within 24 hours by changing your diet. Now, the Western diet by nature has very low microbial diversity. So people who eat the Western diet have low microbial diversity. And microbial diversity is very important for helping the brain. So, okay, the next. That's interesting. What is that? Huh. So junk food is damaging to the microbiome. And even if you eat healthy all week with weekend binging, it's just as bad for the microbiome as a daily junk food diet. So this idea that I've been good and now I can eat bad, don't go into that good and bad mentality. Just eat for your health, eat for your central nervous system, eat for your life, and do not entertain junk food. Next. So this is getting a little more scientific here, but I want to show you down at the bottom of this picture here that microbial diversity and microbial dysbiosis, which means there's too many adverse pathogenic or potentially pathogenic bacteria in the gut, causes permeability in the gut, causes leaky gut, which then stimulates all this inflammation through cytokines, which then affects the tight junctions of the brain and opens up the brain to be permeable, which then causes inflammation, macrophages, and oxidative stress. Okay, next. We have gut microbes in brain tissue. There is a brain microbiome too. So we know that we're discovering more and more microbiomes in the body. And bacterial DNA are present throughout the CNS, and both fungal and bacterial infections coexist in patients with ALS. And so we really have to take care of the gut, because that's where it originates, is the gut. And then it becomes systemic. Okay, next. So there's a gut bacteria that you've probably heard about. You may not, but Akkermansia muciniphala. And it is significantly lower in PALS or persons with ALS compared to the general population. And it's been shown that this particular bacteria, beneficial bacteria, slows disease progression and prolongs survival in animal models of ALS. And these are the foods that increase the abundance of this bacteria, because you can't take this bacteria commercially now that I'm aware of. I think they're trying to come up with a commercial product, but the hope was by 2021. But anyway, these foods actually increase the abundance of Akkermansia muciniphala. And so cranberry extract, Concord grape, pomegranate, butyrate, resveratrol, berberine, high FODMAPs diet, and inulin, prebiotics. So there's all these foods that increase Akkermansia. But then a high-fat diet, alcohol, and the standard American diet actually decrease it. So most people don't have a lot of Akkermansia, but ALS population has even less. Okay, next. Okay, so here's the foods you want to eat to support your microbiome. They're going to be high fiber. They're going to be organic. I can't stress organic enough because everything that is in non-organic foods is going to be damaging. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Oh, no, go back to. Okay, yeah, so next. Okay, so prebiotic foods include apples, garlic, asparagus, leeks, bananas, Jerusalem artichokes, dandelion greens, chicory root, onions, jicama root, just as an example. These are prebiotics. Prebiotics are what help feed the beneficial bacteria in your body. And probiotic foods would be things like apple cider vinegar, sauerkraut, natto, miso, fermented dairy, but you can also do fermented coconut milk is a really good fermented dairy, you know, pseudo dairy, dairy alternative, kimchi, and then this kvass. I've never actually tasted that, but kombucha, many of us are familiar with that, is a good probiotic food. And people often ask, should it be raw or cooked? And I think cooked food allows the person to soak up more calories in the small intestine and leaving less of it for all the microbes further down the gut. And many raw foods contain, you know, good antimicrobial compounds. So it's really one of the issues that some people have with raw foods is that it's not pre-digested, and it can be very hard on people who don't have a really strong digestive system. So I'm more about, you know, cooked, not overly cooked, and some raw. And one of the easier ways to get raw is through smoothies. You know, so you can take your raw kale or spinach and fruit and other veggies, and you can pulverize them in a blender and get the benefit of raw without all the work of chewing and trying to digest it all. So it's semi-pre-digested that way. Okay, so this ends my my presentation for today. There's so much more to talk about, but this is the book that has my chapter in it, chapter 49. And I just feel like we have to obligate ourselves to champion nutrition research and practice to its fullest therapeutic potential for PALS. And I just want to say, I am so grateful for Tish and Scott. They have allowed the work that we are all doing together, because you know, you're working so hard on yourselves. I'm working to be helpful, but we can't do it without a platform. And they have provided this platform. And I want to say that I am just privileged to be working with the pals that I'm working with. I'm always humbled by you and the incredible effort that you put forth to research with me, and that you keep me. And Eileen, you know, as an example, I mean, the research Eileen does, the independent research she does, the double, triple checking of her sources and bringing it back to me, and then sharing it with maybe another doctor that she's seeing, bringing that back to me. This is what keeps me on my toes. You know, I can work really hard for somebody, but when they're working for themselves too, it really helps me. And all of you, everyone I'm working with that I've met through Healing ALS, I have just been really amazed by the tenacity, the intelligence, and the fact that you allow me to share in this quest for healing. I just want to express my gratitude. So thank you, everybody. I think that's it.
Okay.
What can you do to improve lung capacity at 50%? I know we had talked about that a little bit earlier because we chatted before Coco came on about lung capacity.
I couldn't put everything into this presentation, obviously, but there is a gut-lung-brain microbiome. And the lung microbiome is also affected by the gut. I can't answer the 50% quantitatively, but so much of what you do for your gut to support your microbiome also supports your lung. I just wanted to let you know that.
Do you eat eggs? That's another question.
That question was for Eileen, right?
It was for Eileen, but
Eileen too. Yep.
But Coco, if you can elaborate a little bit on that.
Okay, so I think that just going with a smoothie first thing in the morning is sometimes the easiest way to go to pack everything in. So a protein powder that includes, one of the plant-based proteins would be good. Some people can tolerate whey, but because that's also very nutritious. It help the nutrition, the immune system of the gut, and it also supports glutathione production. But since so many people have dairy issues, I really don't promote whey unless a person just knows that they handle it really, really well without anything adverse. But, putting in, like I was talking about before, the vegetables, it can be coconut milk or another nut milk, like macadamia milk, and you can put in some avocado. That smooths out the smoothie really well. The avocado is a fat source that you don't even taste it in the smoothie. And then there's always superfoods. I mean, you can put in some hemp, some chia, some flax, and like a variety of herbs. So that can often be really good for breakfast. It all depends on the person's chewing, their swallowing, their ability. But eggs, yes, I think eggs are a great form of protein, of lecithin, of phospholipids, and sulfur, which also promotes glutathione. And then if the eggs are mixed with various chopped veggies, maybe in an omelet or a scramble, that would be another idea. Is that enough? Does that answer your question?
That's perfect.
Really
Again, this is the egg thing is really, we don't know the egg thing yet, but we do know that Terry Walls in general does not recommend eggs. She says a lot more people are sensitive than know they're sensitive. And Medical Medium also doesn't.
I know.
We have not eliminated. We're down to less than once a month on eggs. Scott and I are, but at least consider going down to once a week if you haven't. So again, it's not really clear how important it is, but eggs, the reason that we're concerned about eggs is that they tend to feed viruses.
Like Epstein-Barr virus.
And that are in the body. But again, we don't have the scientific.
I don't have, and I've looked for the scientific proof of that. So I'm not saying it's not true. I just can't back it up.
Right.
And also eggs, organic eggs in the grocery store are not necessarily the way to go. So I should clarify that knowing where your eggs are actually coming from makes a difference, because organic chickens, many of them in the big commercial organic chicken industry, those chickens are kept in tiny spaces, highly stressed, leading horrible lives. And just because they're fed organic food doesn't make them healthy for you.
Good point.
So,
I just wanted to let everybody know that I'm sharing my screen, because what we found is a lot of pals will do smoothies in the morning. They'll also do this product called Heal in a Meal. And people have said, well, I'm in the US, because they missed this little red dot. If you're visiting from outside Canada, please click here. So just so you know, this is only orderable right now from the US and Canada. But, and this is a picture of it here. And if you put in all caps, Healing ALS, HEALINGALS, as the coupon code, you get a 10% discount. So I just wanted to let everybody know that that's another thing that people can have for breakfast and mix in with their other things. You can either do it separately or do a separate smoothie with your fruit and vegetables and things like chia seeds and flaxseed and all. I just throw everything into my smoothie in the morning. And I usually do my Heal separately because I have enough, but again, it's another great source. And also this Heal is also excellent for feeding tubes. You can also use it as some people use half Kate's Farm and half Heal because they want that cooked raw combination. So again, it's at healingameal.com and healingals.org for a 10% discount. So I'm going to stop my share.
Yeah, I have that. Am I speaking now? Am I off?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I love Heal, and that is part of my recommendations. So I think that's a really high integrity product, and there is some rice in there, but I know that Paul, they test, they have their product tested for any kind of adverse chemicals. So it's a really great product. And one of the things is it's not just based on vitamins and minerals, it's based on the whole foods that are providing the vitamins and minerals. And so what you're getting is you're getting the constituents of these vitamins and minerals as part of the whole food, which is really optimally how you want to be taking it in. So
Coco, can you talk a little bit about, the gut and absorption? Debbie has a question here about anybody experiencing bloating from supplements. And a lot of times they're not actually absorbing the supplements in their gut function. Can you elaborate a little bit on that for them?
Yes. So supplements, it might be the supplement, it might be the gut, it might be the combination of supplements with each other, with food. I think that anybody, when you start going on supplements, it's really important to start very slowly with one supplement at a time, because you want to find out what your tolerance level is. And some supplements take time to adapt to. But before even blaming it on the supplement, it's what is the status of the person's GI health? Do you have adequate stomach acid to break down proteins? Do you have any kind of reflux? Are you getting immediate bloating after eating, or is it coming on an hour later or so forth? And so that'll give you some information about what the culprit is. Do you have adequate digestive enzyme function? This is all something that would be tested in a comprehensive stool analysis. And that would look at your body's ability to make digestive enzymes. And if your body is not doing well, making enough digestive enzymes, then sometimes supplements, you really do feel that digestive discomfort and bloating, but it could be the supplement too. So, but I would want everybody that I see, I want to find out what their gut health is. And that's going to tell me how well certain supplements are going to be tolerated.
Okay, Aiden here basically wanted to talk about polyunsaturated fatty acids. He says another important thing is to pay attention to eliminate it. Can you talk about that a little bit?
So polyunsaturated fatty acids are these long chain fatty acids that can be damaged easily. They can be oxidized. And so a big it's all about balance. So it's not about eliminating all of them entirely, but it's about knowing how to balance the polys with the saturated, with the monounsaturated, et cetera. And so one thing that can really, and I don't know if, I think some of you have done this test when you've looked at red blood cell fatty acids to see what the fatty acid composition is of your red blood cells. And that will tell you if you've got too many polyunsaturated fatty acids in there and if you need more, and what their sources are. So, fish oil is a unsaturated fatty acid, but so is corn oil. So it's the choices of fatty acids that matter, but also the balance with the other fatty acids. And so I like to get a red blood cell fatty acid analysis to get an idea about the balance and then apply dietary guidance to that.
And what about mercury in fish oils? Some people are concerned about the mercury and the supplements, fish oil supplements.
So if you're getting, I would be concerned about that with some of the supplements out there. It has to be third-party verified that they have done their due diligence on making sure there's no extra mercury or other contaminants in there, because mercury is not the only one. So that's a high-end fish oil. I wouldn't worry about mercury being in it because they basically ridded the product of that. But in some of the cheaper ones, there's no telling what kind of due diligence they've done on looking at heavy metals and other contaminants.
Another thing, several people talked about having gas or the bloated stomach. Could you talk about what are some of the good ways to eliminate gas through diet?
Well, yes. So that's going to be really individualized because not everybody has gas for the same reason. Some people have gas because they have low stomach acid and it's allowing bacteria into the gut, because the stomach acid actually sterilizes quite a bit of what we take in and prevents the bad bacteria from getting further down the gut. But for other people, it could be dysbiosis. Dysbiosis is the imbalance of bad bacteria in the gut, and so when you study the gut bacteria, you can see why the gas is probably there. And it can be in the small intestine, and that is a separate test, or the large intestine. But that's where you're going to have the problems with gas and bloating. So, you first take out the obvious foods that you would think would contribute to that. So you'd get rid of the gluten, you'd get rid of that list where I said avoid everything. You'd get rid of all the processed foods. And once you've done that, you've already eliminated everything you're not supposed to have, and you're eating a variety, of foods, and you're still having gas, you might have to look at food allergies too. It could be digestive enzyme function, and it could be bacteria or yeast in the gut. Again, that's very individualized, but you can't just take a gas pill, there's not like a supplement that's going to you got to get rid of the cause of it, and you have to identify the cause.
I love the way that you're bringing up cause. There's not enough folks out there saying cause. If you try to go for root cause, it makes a big difference in your life. Okay, another thing, Tina asked, what's the best lab for testing? I know there's different labs all over. What are some of the labs that you prefer or like having tested?
Well, for what? In general, I think everybody should have
this is in general.
In general, I can maybe post a list to this group because there's I like doctors' data a lot for urinary toxins. I like Genova for various tests. I like
Genova's good, yeah.
So many. The GI map from Diagnostic Solutions is good. I like the Gut Zoomer. And there's different adrenal tests, but it's
We will get a blog out. Coco's going to send me that information, and we will make sure we post it in a blog and probably a link on Coco's blog and kind of and put the link in there for the new blog. But we will have a testing blog, so we'll try to get that up within the next week or two, so you guys can see that.
Yeah.
And by the way, everybody, Eileen did post a downloadable sheet of different supplements and everything on file. If Coco, you can take a look at that sheet too, and maybe both of you can get a little chat about that. But you and Eileen, I know, have been working together. You guys are awesome, which is really good. And there was another one. I'm trying to get through here. Boy, there's lots of questions. Can you give examples of the sprouted grains? This is coming from Gabby.
So you could do sprouted barley, sprouted quinoa, as an example. There's sprouted nuts too, like sprouted almonds. Just an example.
Okay, and I know that.
By the way, Kay has this really cool thing that you got a little sprouting kit, right, Kay?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, those are good.
So those are good, and they do the seeds, and then you can just buy them, and you can just grow them in your kitchen, and you always have them handy.
Very, very easy to do.
Yep.
And I've heard,
and do it.
there's another question here. I've heard from another dietitian that peanuts can go rancid inside of your body and your system. Someone asked, are peanuts good for an ALS diet? So,
You know, peanuts are highly allergenic. So for many people, peanuts don't work. But I would want to know if someone had a peanut allergy.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, we went to one, it was by a functional doctor. We went to one lecture, and he said, you know, humans are not supposed to consume peanuts. They're not fit for human consumption. And I don't know whether that's because they kind of get moldy more easily. And so sometimes they'll have, even the organic ones will have seem to have some sort of toxins in front of storage. But he did say that, I mean, again, it's more of a, I don't believe everything that I read or everything that I hear. But what we do is, again, minimize peanuts rather than, because all of the, like the Brazil nuts and the almonds, and not all of them show all of these problems that peanuts do, not to it. And some people are just allergic to all nuts.
Yeah, I know. And I generally don't steer people towards peanuts because they're so allergenic, but that doesn't mean some people can't handle them. I'm also, you know, that's where it's individualized.
Another thing, Kathy had asked about your thoughts on blood type and diet, because some blood types work much better with animal proteins. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So I think that there is validity to this, but it has to be used as kind of not as a primary focus, but as a backup focus. So for example, if you're struggling with, let's say you're a type O and you're struggling with plants, and you read that, you know, that blood type is going to need more animal protein, it might make sense. I wouldn't just follow a blood type diet, because I have found so many people that if they just do that kind of myopically, they're not necessarily meeting their needs. But I would use it as backup information, just like, you know, even muscle testing. Use that as some side information that might help you know whether you tolerate a certain food, you know, but maybe not the full answer, but it can help steer you in the right direction. So with the blood type also.
That's very good. Very good. Anita did ask, can all of the raw veggies listed for the NRF2 be juiced?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Steve Sherry also, if you remember, if you go to Steve Sherry's blog, and you can get that through healingals.org, he also lists the ingredients of his morning smoothie and his morning juice. So check that out as well.
There's so many ways to do it, but just please enjoy it. So find a flavor you like, or vary the smoothie, and vary what you do. Or if you find something you like, stick with it. But don't when you drink it, and not only enjoy it, but think of all the things you've learned today about what all these chemicals are really doing in your body and for your central nervous system.
yeah, that's very important.
Connect with it. There's a mind-body connection that is so important here. To see the food as your friend, as your advocate, as your gateway to health.
I have a good one for you. Karen asked, you know, she used to eat a lot of seafood. Where can she get tested for BMAA? I know that's like it's a you know, micro neurological toxin, but how do you get tested for that?
You know, I'm not sure how you get tested. Does anybody else know?
Well, I mean, you would test it like you would test mercury, right?
Yeah,
I just neurotoxin, right?
Yeah, you know, I haven't had anybody tested for it per se. So I would just end up Googling how to test for BMAA. I don't know if there's like a special lab that you can, you know, send your blood to or not. I don't know.
Very good question, Karen.
Eileen, you want to answer that? Do you, because Eileen got tested and she found out she had some mold. So Eileen, can you tell us what test?
That's mold though. That's mold.
Right, but that was also in there.
Oh, okay.
I think mycotoxin.
Eileen's BMAA was under mycotoxin?
I did the Great Plains Laboratory mycotoxin test, and it didn't say where I got the mold from. It just told me the mold I had in my body.
Okay, so there is that Great Plains mold test, so we can post that as well. It's not just mold, but it's also all the mycotoxins, and I believe BMAA is one of those mycotoxins.
No, it's not in there.
No, it's not. Okay.
BMAA was not in there. Okay.
It was not in there.
No, I've never seen it. I would love to see it. You know, and BMAA, I mean, you don't even have to be eating it. It can come from where you live, and I think it can be inhaled. I mean, I know it's been found in deserts. As well as on the water. So it's not just about eating the fish. And I wish there was. Maybe there is. I'll look into that and see.
We had one pals who had a gigantic fish tank, and every time the algae would bloom, there would be little mini algae blooms in the fish tank. Mm-hmm. Every time there was an algae bloom, she could feel it. So it's obviously that makes it inhaled. So there's no question that these algae toxins, if you live near a lake or even have a fish tank that's having a bloom. Yeah, and there's certain parts of the United States. I think it's on the East Coast. I'd have to look again. There's certain areas of the United States where there's a larger BMAA problem.
Yes, they're definitely geographic in different regions and things like that. Another, Steve asked, does methylation affect the ability to absorb all these nutrients, the good nutrients, and supplements?
Before you
answer that, how best to improve that? But go ahead.
I want to just follow up one more thing before Coco answers that. The other thing, that there is an air cleaner, which will also get posted. Eileen is writing a document for the Healing ALS website on mold and mycotoxins and BMAA. So just to let you know that there is also an air filter that you can buy that will filter that out of your house.
That's true. So
that if you live near a lake, you don't have to worry about getting exposed to it. You can get this filter that is keeping you from getting constant and breathing in constant exposure to BMAA. So I wanted to share that too. And Scott, could you repeat that question then now for Coco?
Question from Steve: does methylation affect the ability to absorb all these good nutrients and supplements?
Yes, it doesn't. It's not so much about the actual absorption in the gut. So it doesn't have a role in the absorption. So if you eat it and whether it gets absorbed or not, that's not where methylation is at. Methylation involves the ability of the nutrients to be able to be activated, to be able to do their role in the cell. So it's related to the genetic ability of and polymorphisms that influence the ability of the nutrient to have its effect. So in some cases, you have to override methylation issues with nutrients so that they can be effective, or you have to change the form of the nutrient so that it's going to be more bioactive. But the actual gut absorption of it, to my knowledge, the methylation would not be affecting that.
Okay.
It's utilization in the body. Hi, Aiden. I see. Hi, Coco.
Yes. Freddie asked, please ask Coco, what lab test can be used to get a complete picture of one's body condition?
Oh, I love that. We'll post that.
Okay, we'll post it.
It's more than one. So I'm going to recommend like what you can get at your conventional doctor's office, who may or may not believe that nutrition has anything to do with ALS, but these labs are available on their requisition form. So I'll give you an example of that. And then, if you want to go further, which I think you should, then I'll give you examples of laboratory companies and the tests, what they're called, to get a more comprehensive view.
So Tish, you'll make sure that's in the blog too, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
yes.
great.
Potential direct me on that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Smika did ask, because you talked about gluten specifically and those things about gluten. What grains can be eaten? This Smita asked that.
Okay, so
Smita or Smita?
That wasn't fair. I didn't give you all the non-gluten grains, did I?
Right, the non-gluten grains.
Okay,
that's what she's basically asking, right?
Okay, yeah.
Smita, give me a thumbs up, Smita. Is that correct? That's correct? Okay.
Okay, so Okay, quinoa,
Quinoa, okay.
oats,
Oh,
buckwheat. Buckwheat does not contain gluten, even though it says wheat. Um, rice doesn't contain gluten. Amaranth,
rice.
you'll
Amaranth.
see amaranth.
Okay.
Yeah, so those are some examples.
Okay. Will those be in the blog also?
Yes, just remind
Okay.
me. Yeah,
Awesome.
there's more. Yeah.
Okay. Tish, you're on mute, Tish. Unmute yourself. Can you hear? Mute.
Yeah, if you could possibly address, Coco, the difference between when to juice and when to make smoothies for
Okay, so
the difference in absorbability, fiber, you know, that kind of stuff.
yeah, that's a really good question. So I'm just really 50-50 with that. I think that you know, they're the anti-juicers who say you shouldn't juice because you're extracting, you know, from the fiber, and the fiber is so good for you. But if you're already getting a lot of fiber in your diet, and you're getting it through eating or even using a blender, you're still getting all the fiber when you make a smoothie. It's just easier to break down in your body. So to me, I wouldn't just only exclusively use juicing, but the benefit of juicing is, especially if it's not like overly sweet. So you know, we should all share some like favorite juicing recipes, because there's ways of juicing where you still get a nice flavor and it doesn't smell like you're drinking, you know, soil, or taste like you're drinking soil. And it's the balance of the greens, which can sometimes be really strong, with something acidic like a lemon or a lime, and something sweet like apple. And you're just getting that perfect balance. But I think they're both really nutritious, and I like to use both.
That's great.
I have another
Coco.
question that's kind of limited, that's kind of similar. Cynthia says, my pals takes cake farm peptides through the feeding tube. Supposed to be healthier. How do you add extra nutrients? And I would say that's through smoothies, right? That you thin them out, and you can also do both juicing and smoothies. Everything that you can do through your diet in our smoothies, in a regular smoothie, whether you're on a feeding tube or not, you might have to thin them a little bit. Mm-hmm. But Coco, can you just talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much that you can put into a tube feeding. You just have to get the consistency right. And some people are putting heel into their tube feedings, you know, and getting a lot of the benefit of the different fruits and vegetables in that. And some people are putting actual juicing in there, or, and even, I mean, I'll probably do a thing on fats sometime. I think that is really important. But putting in, you know, some special kind of coconut oil in there to increase both calories and beneficial fats. So yeah, you can mix a lot with the cake.
Coco, Anita asked, when will you start taking new patients?
Oh my gosh.
I know that's a big one.
So I have to explain something. When I take on a patient, really? It's like I go into a zone into that person, and that's all I think about while I'm trying to, you know, process all the information and all the data that sometimes comes with certain new patients. Some patients come having had most of the tests I'd ever asked for already. It just takes so much time. It's so time consuming. I look at each patient like a jigsaw puzzle, and it's the best way I can explain it. I'll spend forever taking this little piece of information, matching it with that, putting it back, bringing something else in, putting that in. It's a process, because I'm trying to get inside that person's body, and all they're trying to be inside their metabolic pathways, their, you know, digestive system, the inflammatory pathways, the immune pathways, and then never forgetting the essence of the human being. And that's just not your typical practice.
That's right. And that's why you're so good.
Well, I don't know. I don't know about that part, but I know I try really hard.
You're just being shy.
One of the reasons that we're having Coco here today, and I would like her actually to come on 1 week a month if she would ever be willing to do this, so that slowly but surely we can teach you guys, or we may just do a series of YouTube videos so that Coco can teach practitioners sort of some of the things that she does. But basically, it's about you. The ones that the reversals that we know have done way more work than their practitioner. So they use the practitioner as a resource, and they do this kind of work that Coco is doing now. They do the research and start putting the stuff together. Because once you all do the research on your own, you're going to find things that Coco is going to miss. Coco, how many things have your patients brought to you that turned out to be helpful, that you were kind of under the radar and that you ended up doing because they brought it to you?
I would say every patient you guys are my teacher. So, I basically take assignments from my patients. I have my background, but I need all the input from all of you. And you might find something, you might hear about something, bring it to me, and then that gets me chasing that down. And then the information I learn for one person can then be so helpful for somebody else. So some of you have no idea how much you've helped other patients, just through your own example. And then I'm able to manifest it, with other patients. So, but it's a constant quest. I mean, I am always humbled by how much I don't know. And that when I think I know something, I'll always find something that'll, question it or challenge it, and that doesn't mean that's a negative. It just forces me to learn things more thoroughly. I'm not a physician. I'm not a neurologist. I'm a nutritionist, but that doesn't negate anything. It's just that I didn't start out with that kind of training.
So just to let you know, also this is true. Virtually every functional medical doctor, a naturopath that we interview, feels the same way that Coco does. They want the questions from their patients. They will look into it, and it's that relationship, because the functional medical practitioner is maybe the expert on how these things work, on the science behind it. You guys are the experts on you. You're the experts on what's going on in your body when you eat certain foods, and when you take too many antioxidants, or you've missed. I mean, it's like, this is really a partnership. Mm-hmm. And you look at people like Stephen Sherry that did it without a functional medical doctor. Stephen Shackle reversed ALS without a functional medical doctor. Stephen Bishop did. So you've got to look at the people that did this on their own through their Carol has had a whole bunch of different functional medical practitioners that she's used in series. So again, this is coming from you more than anybody else. You are the most important equation, and we love really good functional medical practitioners, but not all of you have those. And understand there's so much knowledge and healing information you guys can get. We love functional medical practitioners like Coco, and there are a lot of good ones out there. But again, it's this, I would say 75% you and 25% your medical practitioner.
Okay, that's very important. But we have a huge question here. And Kay Cherry, you can elaborate a little bit on this. The question is there anything you can do or recommend for bulbar? Now, I know Kay Cherry has got years of working with bulbar. And if you can start, Coco, and what can someone do? Just like the first 1, 2, 3 steps or something like that? Go right ahead.
I'm going to give it to Kay.
Okay.
I really
you can
feel like
defer.
she holds the light for this.
Yeah, you can defer it to Kay. Yes.
I'm going to.
Are you on mute, Kay? Sounds like you're still on mute, Kay. Are you?
Sorry, I have to unmute her. Sorry, we're trying
again. You have to unmute, Tish.
Yep, I've got her taken care of. She now has the, and now she can unmute.
That's a tough question. What we discovered with Kim was that he had an office where the welding smoke was filtering up into his office. The muscle in the back of his throat was being damaged, and so his lungs were filling with fluid. And one doctor recommended that he drink carbonated water. He says that sometimes helps. So we actually went out and bought a soda stream, and he says, our water tastes better than what you buy at the store. Carbonated water is very acidic, so in time, it began to damage his kidneys. But it took 3 years drinking carbonated water with all of the other healing therapies that we were doing for the muscle in his throat to heal. So he no longer had to drink carbonated water. But you know, everybody's just a little bit different. Other bull bars may not be just like Kim's was. So that's, you know, like I said, that's kind of a tough question.
Right. So thick liquids, though, were very helpful with bull bar. Kim was able to drink the thick liquids, right?
Kim never did that, but yes, we've heard that thickening it can help you swallow. That's another therapy.
So, and then the other one just is the Breathe essential oil, I think, Coco, Kay, that you noticed?
He used Breathe a lot, and he still uses it. You can put it in a diffuser so it diffuses out into the air. Another thing that we noticed was that he had fungus in his lungs. He went through about a week or so where he was eating too much sugar, just, you know, sugary stuff, cake. And it didn't have gluten in it, but it still had, you know, sugar in it. And he began having trouble breathing again. So I took the Melaleuca essential oil, which helps with fungus, put it in the diffuser, and in a very short amount of time, it cleared that up. So if you've got something in your lungs and you can breathe something that will help, cinnamon bark is good with mold. Clove will help viruses. So we've been doing a lot of cloves these days to, you know, if a virus dares come into our house, we can diffuse. We've used Breathe a lot and continue to breathe. And then also on your foot, there is a point you can put the essential oil that goes right into the lungs. And that's kind of right below the second toe. You can rub the Breathe into that area too. And I did that for months for Kim, so he would be able to breathe when he lay down at night. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, that's great. That's fantastic. Coco, are you familiar? Robert asked, are you familiar with the Metagenics?
Forever, yes.
And supplement. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I've been to their factory a couple of times. Metagenics goes way back. I think overall they have good quality supplements for sure. They've done a lot of their own clinical testing on these supplements. They did sell to, why am I blanking on the name of it? It's an affiliate of Amway. So they do not have the same, that happened several years ago. And I'm trying to remember, it still says Metagenics. So yeah, I use their products, not exclusively whatsoever. I mean, for me, I'm not married to any single supplement company. I look for what the best supplement is, and if it happens to be from Metagenics, I'll choose that. If it happens to be from another company, I'll choose that. I would say if you go into any doctor's office and they're only selling like one brand or two brands or even three brands, then they're not doing all their homework.
That's great. Fantastic. Also, another quick one, I believe it was Steve. Does it benefit drinking out of a copper cup?
I'm going to say no. You do not want that kind of copper. I know there's a lot of confusion over copper. And if I do one of these sometime, I'll talk about supplements. I don't recommend copper in supplement form that comes in, you know, a lot of the products because it's a copper 2. It's usually a copper connected with a amino acid. It's chelated with an amino acid. And I've learned through a mentor who's done a lot of research his whole life on copper, and I think he's close to 90 years old now. He's still alive. He's amazing. The copper that you get in supplements is not assimilated in the body into your cells. It gets in your blood, and it can be actually toxic and neurotoxic. So that's why I always recommend multivitamins without copper and any other supplement. Now, if a person can have, if you measure copper in your blood, you may have like a normal copper level or even a high copper level in your blood, but it doesn't mean you have copper in your cells. You could actually be deficient in copper and be toxic in at the same time. Deficient inside your cell, toxic in the rest of your system. So we can talk about that, maybe in a future, one of these, but I'm very leery of copper. Now, the copper that everyone's so excited about that's being studied in ALS, that is copper that is in a delivery package that takes it directly into the cells, the copper ATSM in the research. So that is in a delivery package that's getting it inside the cell and not letting it be toxic in the system. So it's like a direct delivery package. That sounds really interesting to me.
Thank you. So we run a little long on Q&A just because we don't have Coco here very often. So we want to take advantage of her. Coco, there's a study this is from Peter. There's a study from University of Arizona, 2019, mentioning glucose as a protective to motor neurons. What is your opinion about sugar consumption in ALS and this study?
Okay, that is a really good question because that is coming up. It's actually, I've now had a couple people ask me about that. And so that was an animal study, I'm pretty sure, but you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, please. So the sugar, I think what that study was looking at was how it protected motor neurons, and that body has this what's called a glycolytic pathway, and that the sugar coming in is you need the calories, you need the sugar. And sugar is the fastest way to get the calories. And then they were talking about in that article that it was neuroprotective. Well, there's also a lot wrong with sugar. And I don't think it's wise to fast track sugar into the body because of all of its deleterious effects. And some of those effects are in neurotransmitters, in promoting fungal overgrowth, and it can also have sugar is generally genetically modified, and it can cause problems with glucose and insulin. So I think that might be taken out of context.
That's a great answer, Coco. The other thing is, stay tuned next week because Alejandro, and again, it depends. There's natural, if you're doing fruit smoothies, there's natural sugar. You're getting plenty of glucose from that. Mm-hmm. If you like apples, there's a lot of fructose that's natural without eating actual sugar. And what Alejandro has talked about, because he talks about glucose metabolism as well, he takes these little tiny glucose pills. But again, it's a very small amount so that he can keep his sugar balanced. So again, these are tiny amounts. This is not like, putting sugar in your coffee. Mm-hmm. Completely different. So I think Coco's right on the fact that this is probably taken out of context.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's probably way out of context. I still feel though, like I know, there's some popular shakes out there that are really high in sugar. And I like a lot of what, the medical medium supports, but I'm just not sold on their detox smoothie because of it's, for somebody here, I did a nutrient analysis just this week of that smoothie, and it is 69 grams of sugar. Now, given the fact that it's all natural sugar, it's fruit sugar, and it contains vitamins and minerals and other nutrients. It's a lot of fruit, even at one time. And I'm wary of that because, how do you feel if you're eating in your shake, 2 bananas, a cup of orange juice, as that's really quick carb.
Right. So I actually modify mine. I take his heavy metal doxycycline, but I'll put less banana in it, put more fruits in it. So there's a lot of things that you can do to modify that smoothie to give it less sugar.
Thank you. That's what I'm trying to get at, that you can that's really important.
Okay, Coco, I know Tish is about to cut us off on a hard deadline. Can we do a real quick rapid fire?
Rapid fire, what's that?
like quick short answers to some really quick questions, okay?
Okay, I'll try.
All right. We all know about that University of Miami study saying that blue algae can actually contribute to ALS or cause ALS. There's a new study out. You guys can look into that. Another thing, it's real quick. Alternative to sugar. Several questions about that.
Okay, monk fruit. Monk fruit is a good one. Okay. Now, most of the monk fruit is cut with some erythritol, which is a sugar alcohol. And if you can tolerate that, it's not a big problem. But there's also 100% monk fruit. That is super sweet. It's 300 times sweeter than sugar, so be careful how you add it. It also has a bit of a earthy flavor to it. Organic stevia is okay for some people. But do not go to any of the the artificial sugar substitutes.
Right.
What about 100% maple syrup and organic honey?
Someone asked, how much coconut oil should be taken, or can you have too much coconut oil? That's another.
You can have too much of anything. So like in a meal or as a supplement. As a supplement, maybe like 3 tablespoons or so. In a meal, you can cook with it, and then you're getting, it into your vegetables or whatever it is you're cooking with it. You're not going to overdo that unless you're just drinking it down. I'm not worried about it.
So as a follow-up, just to, what about raw organic honey and raw organic maple syrup?
So I love both of those. They have so many nutrients, and there was a study on worms, the elegans worm and maple syrup and ALS, and it showed some benefit. But that doesn't mean pouring maple syrup and honey and eating it willy-nilly is going to be healthy for you, because it's still sugar. It's you've got fructose and glucose, and you're still going to metabolize it as sugar.
Okay, so anything else before we cut off the Q&A? Because I know there's a lot, but we don't. Right now, I want to open it up just to let unmute people. Is there anything that's pressing, Scott?
We pretty much got most of it.
Okay. Essential oils. Somebody asked about that. We'll make sure we have a document on essential oils. Kay has one at alswinners.com. If you can't find that, please contact us. But Kay Cherry does have an essential oils document. So you want to read that one, alswinners.com. Okay, and I'm going to now mute everybody. I just added that to the chat, and I'm going to unmute everyone so everyone can please unmute yourself and then just say who you are. The first thing I'd like to do, we had some phenomenal sharing last time. Any positive shares, I would like to go first before just the shout out, hey, I'm from Winnipeg, or I'm from this. Anyone who's had some positive results that would like to share with the group, please do that. And now everyone has the ability to unmute themselves. Thank you so much, Coco. We really appreciate your sharing. And Coco, just if you have an idea of her depth of knowledge, this was just a tiny, tiny piece of the information she has in her brain.
Yes.
I switched naturopaths since joining. I love her so much.
Fantastic. Thank you. We are putting together a group. This is one of the reasons we have the volunteer meeting, is we're creating this huge database with a lot, like if you have a naturopath that you recommend, absolutely, you're going to be able to rank the naturopaths. We're not quite ready for that, but we're going to be ranking the ones so people can share the ones in their areas that they've had positive results from. So these will be actual ability to rate the people in your local area so that you can share that. Thank you for sharing.
This is important. Has anybody out there improved their breathing?
A lot of people have improved breathing. They may not be on the call today, but again, that's part of. Look at Mark Manchester, wasn't able to breathe at all, and he was on a ventilator for 3 years, and had a tracheostomy, and he's now breathing on his own. So understand what Mark Manchester did is really what Kim Cherry did, and a lot of people that were having issues breathing no longer have these issues because they followed these protocols.
Any processed food you buy in a grocery store, essentially has more than 86% PUFA, and essentially if you eat processed food, you are endangering your body.
This is one of the things that we're trying to do in the knowledge base. So there will be healthy versus unhealthy fats. There'll be a whole document. What Coco did is she said, this is what you have to know to heal. Avoid these fats and take these fats. What Aiden just shared is details on the ATP and methylation and metabolism and all that other stuff and oxidative stress of why. So one of the things that we're going to do in these documents in the knowledge base is for the people that are just starting out, hey, take these, avoid these. And then there'll be the scientific explanation for why these fats, the polyunsaturated fats, are not good for you. But just to let you know, there is science behind every single thing that Coco said today. So understand there's always peer-reviewed journal articles and explaining the science behind all of this. So thank you very much for sharing that, Aiden.
I just wanted to say, for the last 4 years, I've been doing physical therapy, and for the last 4 months, I have a new therapist, and she is actually has been trained in neurological problems, and so she's helping me so much. And when I come out of there, I feel energized, actually not tired, but energized.
Thank you, Dorothea. This is really important. Probably 95% of physical therapists are not trained in neuromuscular physical therapy. So yes, if you can hunt for one that is, we really want to get one on here one day and give people exercises to do at home. We would like, that's going to be one of our weeks. We're going to find a really good one that can help. So thank you very much. All PT is not the same, and there are definitely things that you can do, and you can train your physical therapist. So the ones that aren't trained, you can ask that they get trained and actually give them some links. So this is, again, part of our responsibility out. We're going to be training you're going to be helping train through your research, your functional medical doctors and your physical therapists, because you're going to ask them to please read up on this so that they can do these exercises with you. Thank you very much. Any other sharing before we close? Excellent.
Tish, hello.
Yes.
Go ahead, Margot. Go ahead.
I have the same type of physical therapist, and I feel energized too when I leave her. Last year I had an assistant of some type, and then I learned through that experience that there was a professional who dealt with people like me with neurological issues, and she is absolutely wonderful. So yes, that's a great idea. Maybe I can ask her to speak to the group. I can't promise anything, but I can certainly ask.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you all for sharing. This has really been great. Coco, thank you again. We appreciate all of you so much. You guys are, by coming live, you're able to give input to the rest of the group. Your questions are amazing. Your, and everything that you have to share is amazing. So thank you all for coming and really being involved in your own healing, because this is the key. This is the key to reversing ALS. This is what everyone who's reversed it has taught us. So thank you all for participating and writing your questions in the chat and being here live. So thank you.
Bye-bye to everybody, okay? Bye-bye. Bye, bye, Coco. Bye, Dorothea. Bye, Tony. Bye, Patricia. Bye, Karen. Bye, Eileen. Bye, Brian and Maria. Bye, Betsy. Bye. Got to get everybody. Carol and Mary, and Kim and Kay and
Steve and
Petra, Steve. Bye-bye, everybody.
Okay, bye.
Bye, Schneider.
Bye-bye. See you
next
time.
Bye-bye, Ro.
Bye-bye.
Ro, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.